So here it is Saturday, a nice cool Saturday. There's a nice cool wind blowing, so I'm going to take advantage of it and get a little work done. I have to burn a lot of documents, stuff that we accumulated over the years, and stuff from my wife's office and stuff that's no longer valid, and just to take the precaution to make sure it doesn't fall into anybody's hands. I burn the stuff, but when I can, when it's cool enough to allow. So anyway, I just want to call attention to this burn barrel that I'm using. This was given to me by my wife's uncle, and he made it basically. It's out of the center of a washing machine. So he had an old washing machine. He cut it apart with his torch. He knows I like to burn stuff, so he gave it to me. But just something you don't see everywhere. You know, you got to come to a third world country to find industrious people that will think up stuff like this. But anyway, I'm gonna, before I get started burning this stuff, I will talk a little bit about what I want to talk about today. And before I get started with today's video, I want to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, which is Lido Bar. This is a beer from their 70th anniversary stock, which I bought a case of, I guess it was a year or more ago now. I don't even remember. I just had that thing floating around. So anyway, Lido Bar. The beer is good, but the bar is better. Lido Bar is an institution here in Paraguay, celebrating 70 years. So they used to be located right downtown. They're still right downtown, but they're in a nice new modern place. The other place was much nicer, I think. It had an ambiance to it. If you know, you know. If you've been around here a while, you know Lido Bar. You know what I'm talking about. It used to be a kind of a luncheonette type of a setup, a big square with bar stools and really good food, especially the fish soup, the caldo de surubí is spectacular there. And they still have the same menu, but the ambiance is gone. They kind of went out of business for a while during the pandemic, and then they started back up in a different location. So that's over with. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. As you can see, the title of the video references Gonzalo Lira, and for those of you who don't know, which is probably most people, Gonzalo Lira was a Chilean American who was living in Ukraine, in Kharkov in Ukraine, and used to make YouTube videos and make podcasts giving out information about what was happening in the war between Ukraine and Russia. And I used to listen to him because it was an alternative news source, something different from CNN, Fox News, all the corporate garbage and the propaganda, to get a different take on things, and especially from somebody who's on the ground there. Now, Gonzalo Lira is no longer with us. He was arrested by the Ukrainian government, and from all reports a couple months ago, died in prison from malnourishment or some other thing, who knows. But his error, the thing that I want to call attention to, was that he was very much anti-Ukraine government while living in Ukraine during a wartime situation. And it's actually insanity. It was amazing, a lot of the stuff he said, the criticisms that he made of their president and the government and the connections with the American government and what have you. Politics aside, whether he was right or not aside, it's not the thing you want to do when you're living in a foreign country. And especially when that country has serious problems. So what the hell does Gonzalo Lira have to do with Paraguay? Well, I see this all the time. I see in my work, approximately half of our customers at my job are international people. I know people that are expats living here, and it's a common thread, right? I guess when you leave your home country and you come to a new country, you bring a lot of the attitudes from your old country with you. And so people coming from Europe, people coming from the United States, from North America, they come here, and this is not as developed as back where they're from. So they immediately criticize it, right? That's normal. But you have to understand and adapt to the situation that you're currently in. And that's just I guess a normal tendency that the human beings have. But that's a very mild version. What I'm really talking about are people who come here and somehow feel that they don't need to comply with certain things, or they have certain rights that they believe they have, but they don't in fact really have, or they have rights that are on paper, but enacting and enforcing those rights is a different matter. So, for example, and I experienced this too. The first time I was really off my leash, and I was in Poland in the early '90s, and I felt like, hey, I'm gonna do what I want. Local law doesn't really apply to me, and I didn't really break the law, to some degree or whatever. But I just had that feeling of freedom, like, hey, listen, I'm off my leash, man. I can do what I want when I want. And some people kind of take that to heart here, and there's a case right now I was reading about in the paper last week. It's a relatively wealthy gentleman, came from Europe. I'm not going to give too many specifics because I don't want to get into any trouble, but it's in the paper. And he came here, started a business, and he decided to go ahead and not obey Paraguayan labor law. And in various instances involving, workers' rights and registration with IPS and things like this, the IPS is being the health service. And he got apparently, I don't want to say ratted out. Somebody went to the government and said, hey, my rights are being violated. So now he's facing criminal charges and he's facing serious fines. And all because he didn't do the simplest of things, which is work through a lawyer and follow the law. But it also, that's an extreme case, right? That's an extreme case. That's somebody who started his own business and had multiple employees and failed to comply with the regulations, basically going against the government. But it also, on a smaller scale, it can apply to people who, let's say you purchase a house and you have a property dispute with your neighbor. Now the thing is, you may in fact be completely in the right within the law, and you may want to immediately go to the judicial system to seek remedy, right? But the system itself is not 100% straight. There's corruption involved. So you might not know, or you don't know with whom you're dealing. And being that this is the country of El País de los Amigos, the country of friends and contacts, and you are the outsider, you may find that your case doesn't go exactly as you planned it, and in fact that you're not only now do you not have legal remedy, but now you have an even harder situation with your neighbors. So I guess what I'm getting to is that when you come here and you're a foreigner and you're living here, you have to adapt to the way the situation here is legally and reality on the ground. So you can't be a Gonzalo Lira, thumb your nose at the government and say, well, this is crap, and this we don't do it this way in Germany, and it would be so much better when I was back in Texas, or that accounts for nothing. That amounts to nothing. You're here, and your life is here. You've moved here, and you better make damn good and sure that you know what the limits are, what the rules are, and act in your best interest to not get yourself into something that you don't want to be in. Now, like I said, criticizing the government here, if you want to go Gonzalo's way, and you can criticize them all day long. Nobody's going to throw you in jail here. But if you want to avoid problems, just obey the law and obey the procedures the way they're supposed to be. It's interesting too because a lot of times people will go for advice to other people. So, for example, they'll ask one of their Paraguayan colleagues or a friend or something, saying, what about this? How serious is this? Should I do this? And you might get some bad advice too. A case in point that I know of a guy who ran a business, and he was vastly underreporting the salaries of his workers in the IPS system to avoid paying the corresponding fees, or paying less, basically. And his friend, who owned an even larger business, was telling him, listen, don't worry about that crap. I mean, just pay it. Everybody does it. Everybody cheats. Nothing's going to happen to you. Well, the thing is, the guy he was getting advice from was a well-connected guy in the Colorado party, and he had his bases covered. So whatever he was going to do, there wasn't going to be really any drama to it. He can get away with it. But this other guy, he's setting him up for a major fall. So, and fortunately, the guy, found Jesus, and he got right with the IPS system, everything. He avoided the problems. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to come here, just come here with the open mind and the mindset that you're going to obey from a legal standpoint. You're going to obey as you would have in your home country, and you're really not going to have any problems. But anyway, I got to get back to my burn barrel and start burning some of these documents. They're not going to burn themselves. So adios amigos.